up, you guys? This is the one and only Heavy Metal 95 here. Today we got a brand new movie review we're going to be doing. Sorry about the light as well. Hopefully it'll do well. As you notice, for this movie review, I'm wearing my Kiss t-shirt because I'm a big fan of the band Kiss. So today we're going to be doing a review on this classic that I watched on Internet Archive last year. Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. So, the year was 1978. It was the height of Kiss mania, ever since they put out the Kiss comic book printed in real Kiss blood, which is part of the Marvel Comics Super Special. And that's how the idea of how Kiss wanted to make a movie, particularly how it crosses Star Wars and A Hard Day's Night. So this movie also features the cast, such as Anthony Zerba, who you may remember him as the zombie cult leader in Omega Man, as Abner Devereaux, the Phantom of the Park himself in this movie, for those who haven't wondered. So, without any further ado, this is Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. So let's begin with the plot in this movie. So the plot begins in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, where it starts off with Kiss performing Rock and Roll All Night, where you see the original members, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley, at the beginning of the song. Then we get to the part where it starts at Magic Mountain in Amusement Park, where we see Melissa and her boyfriend Sam are having a good time at the roller coaster, as well as at the amusement park. And this wasn't long until he went into Abner Devereaux's lair and all, whatever that was. Till he disappears, because it turns out he might have been placed under the device mind control, what Abner Devereaux did. We get to this part at the amusement park is where Abner Devereaux was outraged is that they were bringing a Kiss cutout at the amusement park because of how they were saving up all the funds as well, as considering he was a creator of the animatronic attractions. He was not even pleased. Calvin Richards, who is the owner of the park, explained that Kiss is going to have a concert performing there. But this was until Melissa going to the underground laboratory Devereaux has, where Sam was last seen as well. But this was until she figured out where he could have went. And this was until those three punks at the amusement park were always causing up chaos as well. But this was before Abner Devereaux gave those three punks to enter the Chamber of Thrills, where they were fall into traps set by Devereaux. And that's particularly how Richards had fired Devereaux for his behavior upon the guests. And this is before Devereaux was seeking revenge on the park as well as Kiss, of how he blames on his own misfortune. We get to see Kiss performing live in concert at where they perform their hit songs like Shout It Out Loud and Black Diamond, as well as I Stole Your Love and the other parts as well. And this is after the concert, Kiss performed. This is where Devereaux, who is unleashing a robotic copy of Gene Simmons himself to wreak havoc on the park, as well as the security guards as well. This was after Melissa tries to find Sam, who is somewhere in the park as well, according to the fact as well. This was but wasn't long before the next day when the band was being questioned about how they were never did anything wrong, including the park officials, including the police and Richards, for how they were apologizing to the band by pardoning about Gene's sabotage as well. Consider that Kiss was not only a rock group, but they're also superheroes powered by the Ambulant Talisman. Starchild could shoot a laser from his eye, and Space Ace can teleport. The Demon breathes fire, and the Catman has like cat-like abilities, for those who haven't wondered as well. Because, for the most part as well, because that's whatever I wanted to come by on that accordingly, as Melissa helps to seek the band to find Sam, how the security pass receiving from Devereaux with a tracking device as well, of how Devereaux was using Sam to break into the band's lair to steal the talisman, in this case. So, if Kiss doesn't have any powers without the talisman, they'll just be ordinary human beings. As Kiss went to the park, went to figure out a way to stop Devereaux, when they fight off Devereaux's animatronic white monkeys in the process of how they do this, because it was basically, and then how they started the whole figuring out a way to stop Devereaux and his evil plans as well. And then we get to the scene later on where Kiss fight off the Kung Fu warriors and samurais as well. Just considering for this. Other than Kiss was on the merry-go-round earlier before they fight off the animatronic white creature ones from what I mentioned earlier as well. As before they went into the Chamber of Thrills to fight off the animatronics as well. Because when Sam was stealing the talisman and delivering him to Devereaux, as well, as Kiss has battling the animatronics of horror movie characters like Frankenstein and Dracula in the process of how they do this. But this wasn't long until Devereaux uses his ray gun to shoot the talisman, which causes Kiss to lose their powers. When Kiss is imprisoned in the underground laboratory, when Devereaux sent his robotic imposters of Kiss in place to ruin the concert. Just how it ends up with a riot when they were performing the song "Rip and Destroy," which is the altered version of the song "Hotter Than Hell" with altered lyrics. Kiss could figure out why that Devereaux was using the robotic copies of the band members of Kiss themselves just to cause into a chaotic riot and frenzy. And Kiss had to figure out a way to put a stop to this. So they had to get their talismans back, as all that means as well, because I just wanted to say, well, that's the truthful thing, just considering Kiss had to figure out. So they had to put a stop to how they figure out a way. When they retrieved the talismans, as they regained their powers back, as they escaped from the imprisoned prison laboratory, where they went off on stage just to defeat the robotic imposters, so Kiss had saved the concert, and then that's how they performed the song "Rock and Roll All Night" in that one. Consider that this song was right off of Kiss's album Destroyer, Dressed to Kill, and the live version was the more popular one off of their first live album, Kiss Alive. After the concert, Kiss, Melissa, and Richards had to confront Devereaux at the underground laboratory of how they could discovering, but it turns out Devereaux was frozen in a catatonic state, of how he was revealing himself as a namesake as the Phantom of the Park. As Paul Stanley removes the mind control device from Sam's neck, when he shoots a laser right out of its eye, in order to have Sam revert back to normal, Richard had stated out about Devereaux's demise, that Devereaux created Kiss to destroy Kiss, but he lost. Just because, in the end, it destroyed Devereaux in his own little catastrophic mind state as well. So that's basically the plot story in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park goes as well. Okay, the music in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, the fight sequences in the U.S. version was composed by a different composer as well. But just consider, however, the music is composed by Hoyt Curtin, who worked on most of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons as well. Fred Karlin did the music for the fight sequences as well. But in the European version of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, being as Kiss in Attack of the Phantoms, some of the songs from the Kiss solo albums, most of them from Gene Simmons' solo album, as well as Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, and Paul Stanley's solo album, has appeared in that one, as if I'm not mentioning as well, because that's the whole look of this as well as the song Almost Human from the Love Gun album in that one. And for the most part as well, and in the US version, when Melissa was searching for Sam, the song Christine 16 was playing. At the end credits of both versions of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, the European version, it's actually the Gene Simmons song Mr. Make Believe one, but it's only in the European version. But in the US version, it's actually Kiss performing the live version of God of Thunder that was right off of Kiss Alive 2 album, for whatever I can come by to all of this as well, because, well, truthful of this as well, because I must say as well, because the production, how it started at, how it's depicting of how they did this at Magic Mountain on the 19th of May, consider that the tickets were given out to the concert, where they're given out by the local radio station called KTNQ, where Don Steele was the disc jockey at the time. He was at that radio station as well when Kiss had originally appeared on the radio program Don Steele had back in the 70s, when they wanted to record Alive 2 at the Forum at the same time as well. However, the altered version of the song Rip and Destroy, which is the altered version of the song Hotter Than Hell from Kiss's second album Hotter Than Hell, released back in 1974, was only featured in the film, but it was never performed during the concert, but it still seemed to be spread how they had different lyric changes as well. But there is some has got that as well, in its own little way as well, whenever I come by. Just considering, and overseas, there were promotional videos for Kiss's music videos like Sure Know Something and I Was Made for Lovin' You, that were edited in the European version of Kiss in Attack of the Phantoms as well. Because whatever I wanted to say for that as well, because they're simply considered that this is released in Europe as in Attack of the Phantoms by Avco Embassy Pictures in 1979 outside the US. Consider that Kiss hated the film of how they originally appeared, because they even regret doing it as well, because on the whole private screening held for Kiss as well, when they figured out how they wanted to come by on this as well. So this all explains to the fact, according to the book Sound of the Beast, The Complete Headbanging History of Metal, it said something briefly about Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Kiss versus Kiss. Kiss wins either way. So it's basically the real Kiss fighting the robotic imposters of the band members of Kiss themselves. That's why. When Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park was premiered on NBC, which is part of NBC's Saturday Night at the Movies, this was originally aired to be premiering on NBC on October 28th, 1978, which is just in time before Halloween, which that makes sense though, even though despite it was being a TV movie of the week as well, But this was also released all across Europe theatrically as Kiss in Attack of the Phantoms and Kiss Phantoms in Italy as well, for those who haven't been wondering as well. Just so I can give you for the fact for whatever I come by on the movie, like Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, how it's released in other countries, because although it was also showed as a screening in New York, where they viewed it as well, Paul Stanley stated out he remembers seeing a screening of it in New York, and he was so low in his chair and he said he wanted to crawl out of the theater. Gene Simmons, the Demon himself, who is the bassist of Kiss, has recalled about this movie, saying, "Classic movie if you're on drugs. If this would appear on a double bill with Plan 9 from Outer Space as well." Ever since the movie was completed, Peter Criss has stated it out. "I was disgusted. I can't see John Lennon getting beat up by Dracula, and I can't see Mick Jagger wrestling with Frankenstein as well." Because this is how Kiss regretted being in the role of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Up until the 2010s arrived, Kiss later appeared in the animated Scooby-Doo movie, Scooby-Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery, later on in 2015 or something, if I'm not mistaken as well. Just giving you for the fact for this as well. When the movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park was produced by Hanna-Barbera Studios, which is known for the work on the cartoons such as Yogi Bear, The Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, among others, until Hanna-Barbera worked on other projects in the 90s, such as SWAT Cast: The Radical Squadron, and the 1992 Addams Family animated series. Even though this one's got the feel of a Scooby-Doo cartoon, though. How the violence have always peppered with, like, goofy, cartoonish sound effects, how they made the violence more acceptable for younger viewers. There was also in scenes in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park where Ace Frehley was replaced by a stunt double named Alan Olney, who later worked as a stuntman double for Eddie Murphy, Wesley Snipes, among others. Considering that Ace Frehley left that part in the shot scene due to his alcoholism and boredom, according to his book, his autobiography book, No Regrets. Because some days Ace hasn't shown up for whatever reasons as well, considering when Kiss did the film main production for Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Just for those who haven't been wondering as well. And the real main thing about this, particularly for Peter Criss's lines in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, his real voices for the dialogue hasn't been used, so they hired a voice actor, Michael Bell, dubbing all the lines for Peter Criss's dialogue in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. However, in the other scenes in Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, you hear Peter Criss's real voice when he was singing Beth in that scene, especially with the acoustic guitar and all that, which makes sense, though, for the whole project for this as well, of all things. For the filming location in the movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, it was technically originally filmed at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California, because that's particularly the primarily most specific filming location for the movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, including the concert as well, too. I think this was going on around, everything happened on in the 70s, whenever they had the production on that as well, just giving you for the facts accordingly. When Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park was first released on home video, it was first released on VHS by World Vision Home Video, and then it was later released again with Good Times Home Video in conjunction with World Vision Entertainment as well. Even though both were available on VHS and Laserdisc at the time as well, according to the fact for the home video release as well. And then it was Also released on DVD by Cheesy Flicks, but although it wasn't long until it was completely pulled from shelves for some reason, and then all of it and the DVD was basically out of print, and it's gonna costing like a pretty penny online these days. And that's probably one of the rarest ones ever, which is interesting because it's particularly whatever you wanted to come by for on these movies that were long out of print as well, just so I can come across according to whatever I know. Although the European version of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park as Kiss in Attack of the Phantoms is available in the Kissology Volume 2 DVD set, and that's the only version that is available on there, which we do have. Although we do get the US TV movie version of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, which is on both VHS, Laserdisc, and DVD. Even though the DVD from Cheesy Flicks is out of print and it's going to costing like an arm and a leg to get a copy of that these days. Just like how Detroit Rock City, another movie released in 1999, was also out of print on Blu-ray as well too. Just so in case if y'all haven't wondered as well. Speaking of which, there is also the thing that it was also that Kiss had a comic book from Dark Horse Comic Books, such as the title from the comic book called Return of the Phantom, which is basically, I have stumbled to come across, which still seem to be spread, that it's basically like a comic book sequel to the TV movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Consider that it's only been published by Dark Horse Comics as well. Because, which I still have got to the thing for this as well, because it looks like we finally found ourselves a real gold mine on that one. Which I haven't found out about that until now. For Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, I consider it to be my favorite TV movie from the 70s as well. When I think of movies that came out in 1978, chances are you have to have is Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Otherwise, there's other movies such as Rock and Roll High School or Rock and Rule as well. Although, this movie, in my opinion, for my own little double bill as a favorite, I could have put this on the side with Rock and Rule as well. The music is good, especially because I'm a huge fan of Kiss. The production is good, the story's basic. It's just a little simple story written as well. Nothing new about it as well. Yeah. The characters, well, most of them as well. It's anything new if you all know it. It's just, we all know how that goes. My score for this movie, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 as well. So that's going to be it for my movie review on Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park for today's movie review. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, especially if you're new to the channel. Smack the like button if you enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the notifications bell button for more surprises as well. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you like as well, and let me know what you think of it. Just let me know. I'm just going to say as well, because from whatever I can say about it. Yeah, because that's the whole thing. Whenever I wanted to come by, although I have mentioned for this as well, yep, for movies like Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, though, yep. So this is Heavy Metal 95 signing off, and thank you for watching my review, and I'm glad you liked it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Be sure to stay safe and stay healthy. Hope you all have a great day. Until then, I think it's about the time Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park should have a movie to have like a true double bill, double feature like movie. Stay tuned for my revisiting review on Rock and Rule. Until then.